Hello, bad timing to take a sip of water. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another post-game reaction show for the Denver Broncos. This time, a Monday Night Football classic, if I do say so myself. I think end of the year, we're putting together those, or not even we, national NFL media is putting together those, what's the best game of the year list. I think this is absolutely on it. A thriller from wire to wire. I was there. You could probably hear it in my voice. I've been yelling and screaming, and man, what a game! What a game! Please get involved in the comments. As you can see, I'm going solo this time. Unfortunately, David has a fever. He's under the weather. Get well soon, David. Feel better. But in the meantime, I'm going solo. Going to react to this, but I want to have y'all kind of be my co-host for this one. So hop in the comments as much as possible. We'll talk back and forth about the game. You guys throw out some stuff that stood out to you. I'll talk about what stood out to me. And that's kind of how we'll do this thing, I think. First, I'm going to start with instant reaction. Let you guys get those comments in there. Don't worry. I'm going to grab them. But, just got what a dub is right, Carter. But just going to start instant reacting to this. For starters, I think my immediate takeaway circles back to something we said last week. Like, this is a different Broncos team. They can, on a D night, on a C night, and I think this was the Browns' A night, damn near. Really harassed the Broncos offense. The end score doesn't show it, but it was hard to come by yards for probably the first 2/3 of the game for that Broncos offense. They can have their C game and they can go up against a team having, one of their best games of the year, and they can come out with that win. And the Browns are really well coached. That's another thing that stood out to me. Like, Stefanski was in his bag all game long, really giving the Broncos coverage fits. Some of that's definitely Levi Wallace. We'll get into that. But also just great design by Stefanski. A very well coached team. Broncos, even with all the dead cap, even with everything else, come away with the victory when it's far from their last or best night. We got Mac with the super chat. Thank you, Mac, for supporting the show. It's very, very appreciated. Mac saying go Broncos with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Mac. Yeah, what a get. So I just think this is a different team on that front, but then also they won a shootout. I mean, when was the last time we could say that about a Denver Broncos team, that they're winning shootouts? It's not something they've been doing since God, I don't know. We had a comment with one of the first ones in here. When was the last Broncos 40-point game? Man, I don't know. Did Russ have one? It was, oh my God, it was the Josh Rosen game. 45 points against the Cardinals, October 18th, 2018. The last time the Broncos scored 40 points in a game, Josh Rosen was a starting quarterback in this league. And beyond that, Josh Rosen was like, hey, this guy could be a franchise quarterback in this league. That's what was happening the last time the Broncos put up 40. And, 14 of them came on defense, as did, I think they had at least one defensive touchdown in that Arizona game. You kind of need some stuff like that to put up 40. So just great work by the offense, really frustrating ever by the defense outside of those defensive touchdowns. It's kind of hard to come away critical of the defense when they score 2 touchdowns on their own. But wow, I mean, just this is a different Broncos team. Again, they now have a 90% chance. I need to see the updated figures. They came into today with an 85% chance. I'm assuming, getting the win over the Browns is going to boost that, somewhere up to 90. We can round. This is a team with a 90% shot at the playoffs. Even last year, we were hyped that it was like 60 some percent. It never looked this promising. It's not 100, it's 90 for a reason. Plenty of time to screw it up. But wow, I mean, it really feels like the Turner's corner, or the corner is being turned. Rather, they're turning that corner. And quarterback too. They've been looking for the quarterback for so long, looking for just functionality, frankly. Like Case Keenum and Teddy Bridgewater were bright spots in the last decade, and Bo Nix, I think, is we'll see if it keeps up. But right now, he's way above that line of functionality. He is, there's like the old saying, and I think it's oversimplistic, but there's three types of quarterbacks. There's the quarterbacks you win because of, the quarterbacks you win with, and the quarterbacks you can't really win with. And that acceptable point is, the quarterbacks you can win with. The Broncos are winning in part, and there's a lot of other factors, of course, but the Broncos are winning because of Bo Nix right now. And I mean, save for the Texans game for Drew Lock, or there's little blips here or there where that's maybe been the case for a Broncos quarterback over this last decade. The what, 4 or 5 week run Bo Nix is on? Yeah, 4 or 5 week run. It's been nothing like this. Yeah, just that's awesome. All right, let's get into some of your reactions now. Now that I got my opening ramble done. Micah says, credit to Michael Lloyd here. He's the guy saying, when was the last time they scored 40 plus points? LFG Broncos. We got Ross Martin. My heart rate was through the roof watching that game. You and me too. The Broncos were driving down to take the go-ahead lead there with that field goal. And everyone around me at the stadium was celebrating, getting hyped. And I'm like, we're watching that clock with 3 minutes left. And I'm like, dang it, they're going to need the defense to make a stop here. They're going to need the defense to, I hate this spot. And credit to Jaquan McMillan. He came through so big, came through in the biggest moment, in the biggest possible way he could have. Not just taking the interception, but getting up and running with it. That was absolutely stellar. Browntown with the devil emoji. We're celebrating. D-Rock says the tequila's taken over. I don't blame you. I'd be celebrating too. My heart, for the first time in years, knew we had a win with no doubts, even I'm assuming after or with that last Nix interception. And that's kind of what I'm going back to. This is a different team. I think, and I had the same thing. It started to admittedly I've got some scarring over this last decade. And in the fourth quarter, my faith started to waver some. I was not very confident they were going to pull that one out. I was like, dang, they just found a way to give it away. But again, this is a different Broncos team. It can feel that way for 3.5 quarters, and they can win this game. Not that it never happened over the last decade, but I mean, it's happening frequently now. When has that been since the Peyton Manning era, since 2014, 2015, really that 2015 run where they were, crazy pass breakup. And then you have the Aqib Talib interception in week 1 against the Ravens. Week 2, you have the Roby fumble 6 to beat the Chiefs. Every week that season, it felt like, I think you literally could go just about every win that season. There was some crazy moment that got the Broncos over the hump. And I don't know, knowing how to win, finding how to win is a real skill. And I think one thing that's so impressive to me is it takes a while, I think, typically for these rebuilding clubs to figure out. Look at the Lions with Dan Campbell. They were like 3-13, 3-4, 4-13, whatever it was their first year, 6-11, maybe at best. But they had all those 1-score game losses. And it's like, dang, they're playing really hard for the guy. They keep coming up short, but there's something there. The Broncos in year 1 of this rebuild are winning those games. And it's just really, really exciting stuff. Repeat after me, says Browntown. Mick Millions. He deserves a pay raise. I think they've got him as an exclusive rights free agent for 1 more year. So they'll have him cheap, cost controlled for at least 1 more season. But they need to pay that man, keep him around in Denver. And before the pick 6, had some big plays. Pass breakups were just perfectly timing the hit on the receiver to jar the ball loose. I mean, he was great. And I also really, really rough from Levi Wallace out there. But y'all, that's what bad cornerback play is. Jaquan has been the weak link in the secondary, and so he's caught a lot of criticism, but he's still a really good corner. He's just like Riley Moss has been playing out of his dang mind this year, and Pat Surtain's the best cornerback in the league. So against those two, yes, he's the weak link, but that doesn't mean he's bad. That doesn't mean he's some problem area. He's still it doesn't mean he hasn't had bad games either. But he is a plus player at the nickel position, and came through in a huge way tonight. I mean, again, pick 6 aside, which is hard to set aside. It's the game-winning play. One of the coolest endings to an NFL game I've ever gotten to witness in person. But yeah, I mean, dang, you can tell. Sometimes I'm at a loss for words here. I'm still processing all that. This is uh, uh, fresh ground for me and my Broncos analysis career. Man, I think what last year at 8-9 was the best I talked about. I don't think I was even around for 7-9. So this is real nice. Carter saying, Zach, what a dub. I'm with you, Carter. You're not solo, Broncos country. We riding. I'm with that, Micah. Thank you, everybody. The comments are absolutely blowing up, so keep them coming. I'm trying to get to dang near everyone, so appreciate y'all in the chat here. I haven't watched a Broncos game that exciting since I was 14, man. I'm on cloud 9 here. I mean, that sums it up so perfectly. Because there have been great Broncos games, I think, over that. I keep saying decade because it's easy, but what, 8-9 years? There's been great Broncos games over that span. But again, they were blips. And it didn't mean so much in the greater picture. You know, it was like, hey, maybe they can turn this around and have a prayer at the playoffs, or you know, there were never the stakes that there are now. Not that it would have blown up the playoffs if they had lost this game, but where like this matters. Like they're working towards something, they're building towards something. It's not just, you know, gets and shiggles and hoping that these young guys look good and develop, which is what it's been for the last 8 years. It's, you know, this game matters. This is a not a playoff game, but a game with real, you know, playoff implications and stakes. Excuse the hat here; it's horrific. Yeah, the box score not going to reflect it. I feel this was a great game from Bo. You know, I think there were some really high highs, and I, you know, watching this in person, I don't have the replays that y'all had watching it on broadcast. So, you know, please be a little forgiving with my Bo Nix takes here. Make this look a little better for me. Be a little forgiving with my Bo Nix here takes here. Give me some room for error, por favor. But I don't know. I think there were times when, because he has been on such a hot streak entering this game, that he was feeling himself a little too much almost. A couple of those boots stick out to me, and he hit on a few of them when he went for the high instead of the low, and it wasn't a high low because like there'd be a receiver on like a slide route or something out to the flat there, you know, it's like 2nd and 15 or whatever. And you have a Estime or a Javante or a Nate Atkins out there in the flat, and he'd go for the, you know, the shot 15, 17 yards downfield. Now, on one hand, great. Makes my pre-draft analysis look stupid that he is being, if anything, overly aggressive, maybe. You know, definitely runs contrary to some national narratives, certainly. But there were a few times I felt in this game where I was like, I wish you just took, you know, like the old Peyton Manning saying, you never go broke taking a profit. There were a couple of times where I was like, ooh, I wish on that 2nd and 15, rather than taking like the super high difficulty throw, you took an easier one. Now I highlighted the one to Sutton he hit. I don't know if they showed the end zone view on broadcast. I think it was like 3rd, 4th quarter. I think that was it might have been their go ahead. No, I don't think that was their go ahead field goal drive, but the 3rd, 4th quarter, he hit it on the right sideline there. You might know what the play I'm talking about. The window he fires that into to Sutton is non-existent when he throws that ball. Like unreal throw, unreal play, in my opinion. From what I saw on that one replay in the stadium, I was wowed by that. That was epic. But he also did have a receiver open and flat, and that was a bigger gain. That was great. But I do think there's something to be said for, you know, taking that low percentage, like it's low percentage for a reason. It's not always going to hit while you might have like a free 8 yard sitting right there. And I'm getting ticky. It's good that we're nitpicking with the Broncos quarterback instead of like, oh, it'd be great if he wasn't throwing 3 interceptions a game. You know, that's where we were. Okay, so it's kind of nice that we're nitpicking, and I own this is nitpicking, but it's where we're at with the quarterback. We can pick it. We're past the functionality conversation right now. We're to, you know, let's have a high standard for Bo Nix. That's great. Let's have a high standard for him. And you know, I think there were maybe a couple plays, but sorry, I don't want to dwell on the negative. Had that awesome play to Sutton. The deep throw to Mims is sweet. That was sick. I admittedly didn't see the replay on that because I was too hyped on like, oh my god, that was unreal. But yeah, the Ward interception's rough. But overall, like it was a good. They put up 41 points, and 14 of those are defensive. Okay, 27. Put up 27 points. Like, that's great. That's great for a Broncos team. When were they doing that with regularity ever before? Like his ability to move the offense up and down the field with really questionable weapons all around him is incredibly promising. He knows where to go with the football. Like I just he's a smart player. The arm talent's a lot better than I think we thought. The athleticism's a lot better than I think general consensus thought. Yeah, just it's exciting. But I just I hate walking on eggshells with this stuff. But I don't want a mob coming after me. But Nix is great. But we can have some nuance here. Hopefully, I wish. We have a special team. Let's go, says Samuel Castro. I'm with you. This team's something. This team is something. Mac TV saying Yoda Carter. Not to be too much of a downer, but this game felt like a total failure by the coaches. The players bailed them out. I definitely agree on the VJ front of that, though. Some of it's like I think the loss of Riley Moss was really crippling to what they wanted to do, and it's a critique on VJ that that one loss is so crippling. But yeah, I do like that take a lot. There were a lot of coaching failures in this game, I think. More so on the defensive side than the offensive side, I think, off the top of my head. Though the continuing to go back to Javonte Williams, we got to talk about that. At what point, and maybe the light finally switched on in the second half because it seemed, I don't know if Javonte Williams got a touch in the second half. He was, it felt like every time he was in there, it was just to pass protect, which is good. That's kind of what he's useful for at this point in his career, as Joey's done a good job of pointing out. But I mean, when's the light gonna? Again, hopefully it turned on in the second half. But when are they gonna realize he's at best the third running back in that room? And if you want to count Marvin Mims as a running back, he's the fourth best. Like those touches need to be going a lot more to Jaleel McLaughlin. He had a great day. Tip of the cap to him. But those need to be going way more to Jaleel, way more to Audric Estime too, frankly. And not that Javonte can't get any touches, but he should be the third wheel, or the fourth. Yeah, not feeling that one. I want to I think this is saying, sorry, everybody. I'm assuming this is like, I want to see drains. I'm stupid. I want to see drains for rest of the time Moss is going to miss. I agree. I mean, it was a very small sample size. I think that's a damning critique of Damari Mathis. I'll definitely say that right there. But man, it was that critical drive. He's Jameis Winston gets sacked because Abrams Drain just smothers Judy on that play, and everyone saw Judy just devour the Broncos defense all night. He certainly had his revenge game. But yeah, Abrams Drain, excuse me, after what Levi Wallace just put on tape in primetime, like, guess what the Colts are going to do if Moss is out that week? Throw it whoever that guy is. Even if it's not Levi Wallace, they're going to target that guy like crazy. And the Colts, by the way, Broncos have a bye week. So do the Colts. They've got a lot of time to just dial up like the nightmare stuff for Levi Wallace or whoever ends up being out there. These guys can't be worse than Levi Wallace. I can't wait to see how bad Levi Wallace's, targeted stats were for this game, because it felt like every big Browns, and that's strong, but like 70% of the Browns big plays, and there were a lot of them, came at the expense of Levi Wallace just getting flambéed. It was embarrassing how badly he was getting torched. Carter, can we get Bo some true weapons? Excuse me, had to drink some water. Hopefully, I think there's definitely avenues to doing so in the draft. It is a weaker receiver class, but I think there can weirdly be some pros to that because we're seeing actually not, but applies to running back and tight end too. I take that back. But we're seeing a lot of mid-round receivers. It hasn't really worked out for the Broncos, but Terry McLaurin's a fifth-round receiver. God, my brain's just not working right now. Rashee Rice is middle of the second round. Um, uh, Goodness, this is not making a compelling argument because my brain totally went blank. But I think you see a lot of mid-round receivers hit pretty frequently. I mean, Devon Villay in the seventh round, look what he's doing for the Broncos. So I don't think it's the end of the world that those top flight first round guys might not be there, especially when you have some extremely talented running backs that are actually worth being targeted in the top 50. Some extremely talented tight ends that are actually worth being targeted in the top 50. Those are weapons too, and arguably weapons with more positions rather with more glaring holes. Yeah, I think Sutton's pretty dang good. I think like we can debate whether he's a number one on a Super Bowl contender, but I think he's pretty damn good. I think Devon Villay, what he's shown you this year, like he is a competent starting receiver in the NFL. Josh Reynolds still hasn't really worked back from his whole situation, but I think like if he's your number 4 or number 3, I don't think that's terrible. And they really need to upgrade the room. I fully agree or believe that, but you compare that to like Adam Troutman, Nate Adkins, and Lucas Kroll. Like the wide receiver room looks so much better than that. The running back room, Jaleel McLaughlin finally had something going today, but he's been rough for a majority of the season. Not tonight. Tonight he was awesome, but a majority of the season he's been pretty rough. And then Estime, I really like what we've seen, but I don't know if he's like a bell cow back. That I think he's probably part of a rotational situation. So you're going to need a running back too. I think that room has more questions than like wide receiver. So I don't think it's the worst thing. That it's a strong running back tight end crop and maybe not the strongest receiver crop. Especially look at the lessons that maybe Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley are teaching us about. Undervaluing the running back position. I think analytical discoveries about running backs had substantive value. Like I don't think it was all just like hogwash to sound like a prospector from the 1920s. But I don't think it was all nonsense. I think there was substance there. I think we've just overcorrected now. And now you're having the analytically savvy teams, like really Baltimore and Philly, maybe the two most analytically savvy teams going, okay, they're buying the dip. Makes sense. And maybe the Broncos will get in on some of that. Samuel Castro, this Broncos team has no quit. I fully agree with that. I think it's really impressive. The grit of this team, the self-belief this team has. Did LJH have targets today? I don't believe so. If he did, it's one that didn't really stand out to me. I'll see if I can get some receiving stats up quick. Wow. Jameis Winston set a Browns franchise record, and that's an old franchise, a Browns franchise record for passing yards. I mean, that tells you all you need. This has been an elite defense with Riley Moss out there, and then they're letting Jameis Winston set franchise records for, and I know the Browns have had it rough, but again, this franchise has been around for 70 years, something like that, 75 plus years. And, you give them the best passing day in franchise history. It's a little embarrassing. Oh, dang. Kadarius Toney was 87. That's fun. Sorry. Lil Jordan Humphrey did not have a target today, it appears. Adam Troutman only had one. Marvin Mims, definitely the favorite target. He keeps trying to make Troy Franklin work, and it's not quite happening. 3 of 4 to Marvin Mims, 6 of 9 to Sutton, 3 of 3 to Kroll, 1 of 1 to Atkins. Oh, Villay, surprisingly off today. 1 of 4 on targets there. But yeah, Troy Franklin, the only other guy with completion percentage under 50% when targeted. 2 of 5. I guess Troutman, 0 of 1, but only the one target. Getting back to it. Yeah, appreciate Mac with the super chat again. Big shout out there. I think Russ's highest point game was the 33-point Commanders. That's true, and even that had a Hail Mary, which I think is a little more. Yeah, whatever. I was at that one too. Benito, possible defensive player of the year. I don't think so. Admittedly, just I think if it goes to any Bronco, it's going to go to PS2. Though the sack numbers are there, he has the touchdown now. I just don't think he has the narrative because the stats, now that I start thinking about it, the stats are probably pretty close to being there. I just don't think he has the narrative push, which, right or wrong, it's, I think, a huge, huge, huge factor in these awards. The fact that we can even ask that question and it's not absurd, because it's not, it is an incredible compliment to Benito and, how far he's come, how valuable he is to this Broncos team. I mean, it's absolutely tremendous. Yeah, like who thought he'd be challenging for the NFL sack lead? Sorry, let me get updated numbers on this. But this is the downside to being solo. I can't do my research when like Joey and Breer or David are talking. I gotta do it live while I'm talking to you. He's at 10, and I don't know if that's updated through tonight, but what 12 games played, and they're 8-5 after tonight. Correct, everybody? Pretty sure. Yeah, they're 8-5 after tonight. So this isn't updated through tonight. And today he had bad podcasting. Sorry, buddy. Be patient with me. 2 quarterback hits, 1 sack. So that'll get him to 11. He's a half sack behind Trey Hendrickson for the league lead. He's a half sack ahead of Daniil Hunter, a whole sack ahead of Myles Garrett. Bold prediction almost hit, by the way. Just had to let the Browns score more than 25 points. So that's going to be a big fat L on my end. But Myles Garrett kept without a sack, shutout. We gave BTA. I don't know. I might be showing my age here. I don't know. That one's over my head. 41. Come on, bro. Oh yeah, they did great. The turns have tabled. I predicted a shutout. Not good. Yeah, Sean, I was rough one from the defense. Zach, I think you might claim number 1 on the prediction standings after this one. Music to my ears. Music to my ears. I'll have to be running some calculations. Everyone, check out Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. We've been doing our score predictions challenge with all 11 LTB members, as well as you listeners. We've been averaging out your score predictions in the comments, having you be involved that way. Yeah, so check out, see how you listeners are doing in that competition. For a religious man, man, I love this comment from Browntown. This might be comment of the night so far. For a religious man, Bo Nix looks possessed. I love it. He does. He's been balling out. I absolutely love it. Hate to have this much confidence, but playoffs feel like a lock. I know. It's weird. Even the math, the vibes, everything says, the Broncos will be playing playoff football. I refuse to let myself believe that. Really, just after the last 8 years, it's nothing against this team. I'm just I can feel it. I'm guarding myself against the letdown. I just feel like the rug pull's coming, and I don't really believe that, but man, it's hard to deny that feeling right now. If we can play badly and still win a shootout, we are a good team. Good teams beat bad teams. We have done that this year every single time. Fully agree, Atomic. I think this sums it up perfectly. And also, in the past, the Broncos were the bad team getting beat. They were the bad team who had a solid night. The good team had an off night. And even still, the Broncos would find a way to end up in the loss column. And now they're on the end of that relationship where they're doling out the punishment. And that's nice to see. This game actually gave me anxiety. I feel the exact same way, slightly above average. After that 90-plus yard Judy touchdown, I was so scared. Same. That one took the wind, I think, out of everybody's sails, because you had the Mims touchdown was so electric. I mean, that stadium could have exploded right then. And then to go right back, damn near next play, Levi Wallace just getting absolutely scorched by Jerry Jeudy. That was a gut punch. I think Mims might have been a hit in the draft. I really doubted him, but he just has a unique use. I'm with you. He's and credit to Sean Payton for that, and credit to Marvin Mims for that. They've found and Bo Nix, a lot of offensive pieces. receivers coach. I can't think of his name right now. It deserved a lot of criticism. I think that David was giving him earlier in the year. The fact they've found a way to make Marvin Mims work with his unique skill set, with some of the limitations that he currently has in his game, I do think is really cool and one of the better coaching jobs of the year from the Denver Broncos. Let me see if I got something here. Didn't McMillions make a pick like that against the Chiefs last year? That sounds vaguely familiar. If someone can clarify whether or not he did, that'd be great. How would you grade Bo's performance, Zach? What scale I think is important. Not to be, I mean, it's a cop out. I hate it, but are we grading it on the rookie quarterback scale? On the rookie quarterback scale, that's a B plus, A minus. On the general NFL quarterbacking scale, I don't know, that's C plus, B minus, something like that. Probably C plus, something like that. On the Bo Nix scale, I think probably about the same. Because I think on this hot streak, he's shown, and he is a rookie quarterback. I think it's still fair to grade him on that scale, but he's raised my expectations personally for him. I don't view him like I would run of the mill rookie quarterback. Like if I were to turn on Drake May, I haven't studied a lot of Drake May this year, and he put out that performance, I'd be like, oh, it's pretty good. That's nice. That's a promising young quarterback. I like a lot of what I saw. A couple things here and there that room to grow for sure, but I really like a lot of what he did there. But I'm not going in blind on Bo Nix. I've seen the last, month and a half of football, and I think there were a lot of positives. It's not to say I'm saying what C plus for like if I'm putting him on a just veteran NFL quarterbacking grading scale. So he had a fine game in my opinion, but I think he's raised. It's fair to say he's raised expectations. And it's another thing. Like you see these national people blowing up because they're hating on Bo Nix or whatever. Man, it's frustrating. It's annoying. I get the fan base reaction to it, but in a sense, it's also validating that it's not like no one's having the can this guy play in the league conversation anymore. They were after week 1, after week 2, after week 3. Like it was a good game, but they were like, oh, maybe he can play. After week 4, even after week 5, like that was the conversation. Like, does this guy belong in the NFL? The fact they're like, I don't know if he's an elite quarterback. That I don't blame you, Broncos country. Frustrating, but that in and of itself is a win. That's them ceding ground. That's them taking an L. And it'd be nice if they explicitly said it. Not many people in this business do that. I'm not gonna lie, that got me wanting to get into gym to work out. I love it. We got the Broncos hyping people up. He had that big Chubb stop right before the false start push. Sorry, I haven't been getting the comments fast enough. I don't know what we're referencing specifically there, Atomic. Excuse me. Oh, and the Broncos absolutely need to get Bo serious playmaking help this offseason, get secondary depth, and re-sign Bulls. I love this take, Mr. Rocket. I was thinking during this game, like, we should be having cornerbacks back in our mock drafts, like fairly high, like the 3rd round or so, and not anything against Riley Moss, not anything against Jaquan, obviously Surtain. And maybe Abrams Drain ends up being this guy. I was thinking this to myself 2nd, 3rd quarter, but it's ridiculous that the defense goes from elite to horrible because your number 2 cornerback gets injured. That's really concerning. And the signs were there last week too against Gardner Minshew in a really limited Raiders offense. Like you need secondary depth. And that's also, this team has $70 million in dead cap. You have the $55 million from Russ. There's a lot of dead cap on top of that too. They have $71 million in dead cap. You're taking $71 million out of this roster. You're taking a few 1st-round picks, a few seconds, a few 3rds out of this roster. Some of those probably would have been secondary depth pieces. Some of that $70 million probably would have gone, or some of those draft picks probably would have gone to shoring that up. So that's the cost. And yet still, in spite of that cost, because also it's happening at more places than the secondary. right? That we're talking about 70 million and a lot of draft picks. That attrition is all over this roster, glaring at secondary, but all over this roster. And we're talking about a team with a 90+% chance of making the postseason. Like that's sick. Talent wise, I don't know how much better this team is than like 2022. Like I think 2022's roster was probably a good bit more talented. Especially like if we're going to say outside quarterback, I think 2022's roster was a lot more talented than this, and tire fire. You know, and that's comparing Nate Hackett to Sean Payton, but like, you know, the extremes, I think, evidence that point pretty well. That was what, 5-12, right? And you know, probably would have been worse if they didn't fire Hackett early. And then you look at like competent coaching and what that has done for the squad. Jarrett Mallory, I feel we go into the playoff with 10 wins. I think it's very possible. I still think 11's on the table. You know, I don't want to get my chest too puffy here, but I think it could be all the way to 11. I think that's fair to say he is better than Brad. Also, hot take, is Nick Bonito better than Bradley Chubb? Jarrett Mallory says, I think that's fair to say he is better than Bradley Chubb. Not even a hot take, says slightly above average. Bonito is better than Chubb. You know, God, I'm thinking about that take. I like it. I think Nick Bonito's already a better pass rusher than what we've seen from Chubb. He's had some nice highs. Like 2022 was really good. Last year with the Dolphins was really good. And then run defending, it's not close, right? That goes to Chubb. But you care about the pass rush more. I do think there's something to be said about the finishing. Bonito's a lot healthier and a lot more available. You know, there's a little saying, best ability is availability. You know, and that's a big check mark in the Bonito column. I think at their best, yeah, this is how I'd frame it right now. At their absolute peak, I think Bradley Chubb might still have a little more than Nick Bonito, especially just because the run game is so night and day. Pass rush, I think Bonito actually gets the edge, but the run game gap is really, really big. And so, and that's even with Bonito improving a lot. Just I think Chubb's an elite run defender. So I think at the best, at the height of their powers, and Bonito hasn't reached the height of his powers yet. I think Chubb probably isn't going to keep ascending. Bonito, given what we've seen through 3 years of the guy now, I think there's a good chance he continues to ascend. But at the best we've seen the two so far, I think Chubb's peak was probably a little higher. I think if I had to pick one to build my team around, and even like past versions of Chubb, I'd probably go Bonito, just because he doesn't have the injuries. And I think he's been a more consistent player, a lot more consistent player. Health aside, even. Excuse me. I just need to tell someone I cashed. This is from slightly above average too. I cashed a bet that Broncos would win minus 5.5 for a 300 profit with under 2 minutes to play, and that pick six happens 30 seconds after. That is slightly above average because what, they were up 1, right? Or were they up 2? No, they were up. Yeah, they were up 2. So even a field goal wouldn't have done it for you there. You needed a touchdown and you needed a stop. I mean, yeah, I'd be flexing in the comments too. That's a good win. Good on you. $300 profit. Enjoy that, man. Oh no, I misunderstood. Do you mean you cashed out? I'll get to the comments in a second. I hope I wasn't just celebrating a painful moment for you, man. I'm sorry. Michael Lloyd, we are Knicks picking. I like it. Atomic echoing what I was saying of Knicks. I believe he was trying to prove a point that could cost us the game, but on the bright side, at least we won. Yeah, I hope that wasn't the case. You know, I hope it was just feeling himself. You know, like that. I don't mind as much for my quarterback. If he's really just like going out there trying to prove media doofus is wrong, like that, honestly, that would be more concerning to me than you know, the mistakes, whatever we want to call it, the over aggression. You know, that would be less concerning to me than the root cause. If the root cause, and I don't believe it is, but if the root cause was the media conversation, the fact that got in his head so much and really changed the way he wanted to play, it would be more concerning to me than the change itself. If that makes sense. Again, don't think that's the case, but just responding to the comment. Not to be so defensive. I've seen some people get jumped for saying anything about Bo Nix. I'm a little scared out here. Atomic 626. When can we cut Javante? He's good at pass pro, but he deserves 0 carries a game. It's tough. I think they're just going to let him walk at season's end. I think, it's not about cutting him right now. It's just minimizing his role in the offense. He can't be this giant piece that he's been the past 2 weeks. It's been an active negative. He's actively hurt the team. That's strong, but he's been largely negative over these last 2 games. Excuse me. Apart from being a Giant, this is Jake Patterson. Apart from being a Giants fan, Denver has a soft spot for me. Being from Australia, my favorite local team is called the Brisbane Broncos, which you should look at. I actually know the Brisbane Broncos, familiar, which you should look into. But my first game was watching Super Bowl 50. Hey, Jake, well, you're welcome. If you want to join the Little Broncos Club while the Giants are rebuilding, come on board. We're having some fun football over here. Atomic again saying Wallace just way too slow. KAD Abrams Strain can keep up way quicker. I'm with you. And even Mathis, okay, we know Wallace isn't the answer. And maybe we put Abrams Strain out there and he's somehow worse. And we put Mathis out there and he's somehow worse. Okay, time to go back to Wallace. But let's get there. We know Wallace ain't it. That is bad. And maybe it's the least of the evils. But I would like to know that before we just settle for that. LTB Muse saying we back. True weapons as in a damn consistent running game. Absolutely. When they had that one drive with Jaleel just starting to gash the Browns, I was like, oh man, this is so aesthetically pleasing. Seeing the Broncos with well-designed, well-executed run plays. This is sweet. Really quick, I'll get back to the comments here in 1 second. If you want to like the stream, comment, even if you're watching not live, the comments, the likes really help us out as we keep trying to grow. Let's Talk Broncos. Keep this thing going. So yeah, if you enjoy the show, if you've had a good time talking about the game with me, you're logged into your YouTube account and just can, hit the like button. Genuine, it's silly, but it genuinely has huge. All our most viewed videos are the ones where we get early likes early, or a lot of likes early, excuse me. So yeah, if you want to support the show, that's a great way to do it. Thank you everyone for just even watching. That's incredible support, and we're very grateful for that even. So thank you everybody, and talking with me and letting the show even work solo. Thank you all for hopping in here, chatting about the game with me. It's been a lot of fun. We got more comments to get to, but I just wanted to note that. Why didn't Vance just have PS2 eliminate Judy? I know everyone is asking this, but it felt just like the Ravens game. I think it was, I think they really wanted to do that. And I think they could have even leaned more on it. You have that 8-point possession for the Browns was why was Surtain not on Jerry Jeudy on either of those plays? That's terrible. Not to say that, sorry, I'm defending Vance a little here, but he absolutely should have had PS2 on Jeudy more. Nonetheless, you aren't going to call the same defensive coverage and same defensive play every time. On that final drive, they actually started to move Surtain into the slot to follow Jeudy, but Surtain rarely plays in the slot. So the Browns were hiding Jeudy by putting him in the slot a fair bit. The Broncos, they were also motioning Jeudy a lot. And I think some of that was to figure out, is Surtain going to follow him over to the side, or is he going to stay in his zone? In which case we're, cherry picking a matchup against Levi Wallace with Jerry Jeudy, and we love that. And then Jeudy had a couple of wins on Surtain too in his own right. So, why didn't he do more? I don't have a good answer. He absolutely should have done more. That should have been the big halftime adjustment. But I also don't think it's as simple as just But yeah, just have PS2 cover him every single play of the game. Um, yeah, I like this comment from Jarrett Mallory. Amon Ra. Oh, I don't know if he's available, but I take Amon Ra St. Brown. Sorry. That was LTB Muse with the Amon Ra comment. Jarrett Mallory, when can we cut Javonte? When we can cut Javonte is when we get a true running back one. Then we cut him. I mean, I agree to an extent. I think that it probably won't happen after they get that running back one, just because how the offseason works. His contract's going to expire in February, and then they'll start looking to add players in March, right? So that's just but I think it is Javonte goes out this offseason, and hopefully that true running back one comes in this offseason. I think we need Mims and Franklin to develop. Get Bo a tight end and a running back. The offense would benefit most if our run game was efficient, says Atomic. I actually really agree with this. I think a guy like Gunnar Helm, like Tyler Warren, is really, really exciting. But I think a guy like Gunnar Helm, who comes into the NFL as a really strong run blocker, might be more what the Broncos need. I think giving Bo Nix, you're seeing how good he is off the play action. I think giving him a really lethal or even just like solid, reliable run game would take this offense that much further. So continuing to invest in the offensive line, continuing to invest in like quality tight end that can block, upgraded running back. I think those really would pay massive dividends for the offense and also for Bo Nix. Kick Levi Wallace. Sorry, this is from Gwumpus Lumpus. Funny name. Kick Levi Wallace out of the locker room. He doesn't deserve to hear a post-win speech. It's a little harsh, but definitely had a rough day today. It was consistently the worst player on the field. That sucks, but I don't know if I can co-sign that statement fully. Jaleel had a good game against the Raiders too. He did. He's oh man, really, Cameron? We're gonna do this? I didn't even move. All right. Well, hopefully it fixes itself. Sorry, everybody. I don't mean this. This is so annoying. I hate this. Right? See, it wants me to be like here, which makes no sense. All right. This is annoying. Okay. He did have a good game. Hopefully we get more of that from him. They need something out of the run game, and it ain't coming from Javonte. Undefeated when LJH is targeted. Interesting. I think he means isn't targeted. But yeah, that would be funny. That's a funny LJH. God, I keep saying LGH. I think I've been saying that this whole show. It's a funny LJH stat. If Abrams Dream starts all game, the Browns only score 20 points, shut down the run, and he accounted for what felt like 300 yards. I think it's very possible that's true. I think that's very possible. I think also we're talking about a fourth, fifth round rookie, and some of that, some of the reason he went there is like it's going to be inconsistent. We're talking about a day 3 rookie. What Moss is giving you in terms of consistency. It is unreal as a player drafted way earlier who's in his second season. So yes, I think that could be true. I think also, he might have gotten burned. Not to the extent Levi Wallace did. I mean, hard to outdo Levi Wallace today, but I do think it would have been better fully. I don't know if they would have shut down Jerry Jeudy if they have someone else on him. Though I do agree, hard to imagine how it could be any worse. I mean, what is this? This is ridiculous. Just why won't the autofocus work? We're just not gonna. All right, whatever. This sucks. I mean, it's ridiculous. Glumpus Lumpus. It's gonna make me laugh every time. I agree, and that's what made me mad. Vance could not adjust. It was rough. Yeah. Surtain is more deserving defensive player of the year, but glad Benito is having a good year. I'm with that. I love that Bo gave a lip. Sorry, I should be reading these. That was Mike 66. Sorry, Mike 677 with the Surtain Depoy comment. Jimmy Smith. I love that Bo gave a little nod to Winston telling the defense to jump off sides. Oh, sorry, I was really slow on that. If he did that, that's hilarious. I missed that being at the game, but I need to find that social media clip. That's hilarious. Um, they just have to go 2-2 to end this season in the playoffs. Yeah, I think 10-7 probably gets it done. The Dolphins scare me a bit, especially because the conference record tiebreaker would probably go to them. They lost a lot of games to NFC teams. Um, yeah, that one would admittedly worry me. I'm rooting hard against the Dolphins every week between now and this end of the season, but 10-7 probably gets the job done. I agree. Um, do not forgive the Knicks turnovers. Do you forgive the Knicks? Sorry. Do you forgive the Knicks turnovers in a shootout because you're really just chucking up yards at a certain point? Um, I mean, I definitely don't blame him for the first one, right? Like it's a tight window, and bad things can happen when you target tight windows, but that's like an absurd bounce. I'm not gonna, come down really hard on Knicks for like just one of the wackiest bounces I've seen in person. The second one, and there were other plays where I was talking about how I felt sometimes maybe he was over aggressive. Some of those other ones could have been turnovers or um, just like any deep pass. If you're throwing up a jump ball, chance the cornerback wins that. I didn't mind I think he was smart about when he took. And I know I'm talking on both sides of my mouth. Again, there's I think nuance in this. Because I do think he was over aggressive, but I also think a lot of those came on third down and like a 3rd and 10 spot. The ones on second down or whatever kind of drove me crazy. But when it's third down and you're going to huck it up there, okay, so what if they come down with the interception? It's effectively like a punt. But that second interception that comes on first down, right after your defense seemed to be getting some semblance of momentum, and that just immediately seemed to throw it back to the Browns. So that one I will hold against him a little bit. All this based on in stadium live takes, though. No film study or anything. Please give me some margin for error. Talking Bo Nix. Frankie, best moments in the stadium. Anything you saw that might not have made it onto the broadcast? I think the end zone shot to Cortland Sutton. I imagine they must have showed that, but he again, third or fourth quarter, Sutton on the sideline. Whipped it down there. I think he had Estime in the flat on that play that I'm thinking of. And Sutton wasn't open when he threw that ball. Like even the end zone angle they showed. I mean, Sutton was totally covered by the defensive lineman. He just threw it out in front enough where Sutton could like run into it before the defense. Like I'm not describing it well, but it was just out of reach of the defender's fingertips. And Sutton was totally covered, but because Sutton was behind the defender and running parallel, he intersected with that pass at a point where the defender couldn't. Just like an unreal throw. That one was sick. The best stadium moment though was the Mims touchdown. Well, and the JQM interception. Like nothing beat the JQM interception. Halftime show was awesome. The front half of it was kind of lame, but once they started doing all the fireworks and they had a like flaming plane fly through the stadium, that was pretty cool. But in terms of the actual game itself, I think obviously the game-winning touchdown and then the Marvin Mims score was sweet. The Judy rivalry was real. Judy definitely like dunking on Broncos fans, but and the comments earlier in the week definitely I don't think were um, uh, aggravated. I'm trying to think of the right word. I don't know. Judy initiated the whole situation. He was the first one to start firing shots. But during the game, there were like Judy sucks chants. Every time he touched the ball, the stadium erupted in boos. Like they made it known they did not like Jerry Judy. So that was interesting. I think that was a fun moment. Yeah, Mims touchdown, JQM. I mean, that's some of the loudest or just like the coolest, most energetic I felt at Broncos Stadium ever. In any game I've been to. I just realized that pass interference by KAD is the reason the spread was covered in the pick. Huh? Good stuff. Cornerback is a need this offseason bad, says TW. I'm with you. Sorry, that last comment about KAD was LTB Muse. If they can't trust Mathis out there for Levi, Yeah, it's really concerning what that says about Mathis. Can Beatty come back? I think they might be out of activations. And given the nature of that injury, I'd be a little anxious about that, anyways. Um, Mike with the super chat. Sorry, Mike, I didn't see this one come in. Saying Bo Nix was on point the whole night. He played G. I love it, Mike. He was on point. I mean, Broncos won a shootout. I keep coming back to that, man. When was the last time we could say that? Gunnar Helm screams Sean Payton. His film screams Sean Payton. I fully agree with you, LTB Muse. Yeah, a couple comments about can Beatty come back. I just don't know what that's ultimately changing. Um, we saw a glimmer and it was really exciting. And maybe that's a thing next year. Maybe it is a thing at the back end of this season. I can't say he there's no chance he'd be better than Javonte. I think that's very possible. It was kind of a nasty injury. I just I don't know. I think Estime's the one I'm more hung up on. I guess it's like why aren't these carries going to Estime? Beatty, I would be very surprised if he's back in the picture this season. Atomic 626. Dolphins have such an easy schedule they can win out and would have tiebreaker. Bingo. That's the thing that scares me. This Dolphin schedule. Does the Broncos go 2-2? They'd be 10-7. Dolphins have home against the Jets, at Texans, but the Texans have been struggling. Home against the Niners, at Browns, at Jets. Again, like at Browns, I mean, we just saw Browns are going to be a legit competition. Hosting the 49ers. 49ers, actually, without CMC and whatnot, that might not be that bad. But they're still the 49ers. Texans, they're a legit playoff team, but they've been struggling. They could lose all three of those games. They could even lose one of the games to the Jets. That's a hated rivalry. I think the Jets will get out of bed for. But they could also go 5-0. And if they go 5-0, they're sitting at 10-7 themselves, and they probably have the conference tiebreaker over the Broncos. So 11-6, I do think is that's the magic number where you can just rest assured they've done it. And also root hard against the Dolphins the rest of the way. If they lose one more, that's loss number 8 for them. They're looking at 9-8. And so long as the Broncos get 10-7, you don't got to worry about the tiebreaker. Also, hope they lose to an AFC team. Just to help that out some. Hunter Livy, Livy, one of the two. According to Andrew Mason, if the Broncos finish the season 3-2, maybe he means 2-2 because they don't have 5 games left, do they? I don't think so. Anyways, if the Broncos finish the season either 3-1 or 2-2 with one of those wins against the Colts, they're guaranteed to make the playoffs as long as Miami doesn't win 5 straight games. Okay, so that's kind of what we just went over. Yeah, so long as Miami doesn't win out and the Broncos beat the Colts, can go 2-2 the rest of the way. Should be okay. Good sign. Okay, guys, man, my throat's gonna kill me. We're about to wrap up here. You have any final thought? Oh, 3-2, including the Browns game. Appreciate you, Hunter. Sorry, I didn't mean to misquote you or anything. So yeah, 2-2 the rest of the way. They go 2-2 the rest of the way. They beat the Colts. They are in the playoffs so long as the Dolphins don't win out. So everyone, hate the Dolphins. Pray for some cold weather. Let's do this thing. Rock saying hi, Zach and chat. Thank you, Rock, for joining the show. Josh Steckline says we are not worried about Tua in the cold. Yeah, I'd echo that. Again, pray for some cold weather. Broncos need to beat the Colts and win another game and one Dolphins loss, and we'll be in the dance. Yep, love it, Merlot. Oh man, my throat's about to give out. We're gonna call this thing. I ain't been in the gym for months. This was a mistake, but worth it. Damn, actually did motivate him all the way to the gym. Good shit. Go Broncos. That's a motivation right there. All right, everybody. Altitude. Oh man, altitude adjustments back tomorrow, and it is a very special edition. It is the Engage 8 show. Mario's been hyped about this idea all season long. It might be very chaotic. It might be an absolute train wreck. It might be the best show we've ever put out. Either way, spectacle. Go check it out. It's going to be me, Joey. I think Bree's on there. Yeah, me. It's all three of us. Pat, Mario. Uh, is Carter on there? I think it's Carter, Broncos for Dummies, and Ryan Edwards. I might have mixed up the Carter spot there, but the other seven I'm 100% on. Point being, we got 8 great analysts. They're going to be breaking down this game. They're going to be talking about some different Broncos takes. What's Bo Nix's ceiling looking like? How far can the Broncos go in the playoffs? You know, could they replicate a 2005 Steelers esque run? All sorts of fun topics. Excited to get into that with a great crew of people. Then Wednesday, we're back. I'm probably doing some midseason awards, some other sort of game, since we won't have a Broncos game to preview. It's the bye week. And then we'll have full field read. I think probably doing some film study from this Browns game later in the week. So anyway, support the channel. If you enjoyed this stream, leave a like. Again, it really does make a difference for us. Leave a comment. You know, if you're watching this recorded, I'll try and get in the comment section, either as the LTB account or my own personal account, to interact with you and answer those questions then. But yeah, just thank you, everybody. We had 2 super chats tonight. Want to shout out those really quick. Oh, dang, Mike with a third. Sorry, we had 3 super chats. Raiders only team in AFC West with a losing record, and a heart emoji. That's what I'm talking about. That is some sweet news, music to my ears, that the Raiders are the only team in the AFC West with a losing record. Thank you, Mike, for the 2 super chats. Thank you as well to Mac for the super chat. Thank you, everyone, just in general, for interacting, making this show possible. If it was just me rambling, would have not been a great show. So it was good talking back and forth with you guys, sharing some takes. We'll be more in depth about this tomorrow and Wednesday. Support David Talks Broncos. No, he wasn't on this one, but he is a great friend of the show. He does good work. And until next time, everybody, let's go Broncos. Playoffs. The playoffs. Let's talk about